6 psychological traits that make any woman chase you. Psychology tricks. Love is not about possession. Love is about appreciation. Osho. Let me say this plainly. There are certain psychological qualities in a man that stay in a woman's mind long after the conversation ends. They pull at her attention quietly, almost beneath her awareness, and they create the kind of attraction that feels impossible to ignore. The hard truth is that most men never develop these qualities. In fact, they usually do the opposite, then wonder why they are overlooked. And the last trait in particular is the one many women will rarely confess affects them, even though it does again and again. There is real research behind this. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that women often felt more drawn to men whose feelings were difficult to read than to men who were obviously interested or obviously uninterested. Think about that. The strongest pull often came from uncertainty, from the man she could not fully figure out. Not from the one flooding her with attention. Not from the one acting cold. From the one whose presence made her curious. Now, that does not mean playing childish games or copying stale pickup advice. That is not the point. These are not cheap tactics. They are deeper psychological patterns, grounded in human behavior and the way attraction actually forms in the mind. They shape how a woman experiences you before logic even has time to step in. I know this because I have felt that difference myself. I have spoken to men who checked the usual boxes and yet created no emotional spark at all. And I have met men who were not the most handsome in the room, yet something in their energy, their restraint, and the way they moved through the world made them unforgettable. Most men misunderstand attraction. They think it lives in perfect words, sharp clothes, or physical features alone. Those things can help, yes, but they're not the engine. Real attraction, the kind that keeps her thinking about you when you are not there, is often sparked by psychological signals that work faster than reason. A woman does not sit down and logically decide to pursue a man. More often, something in his character activates a response inside her. That is why the men who carry these 6 traits rarely look desperate or overeager. They do not force pursuit. They inspire it. And the most encouraging part is this. These traits are not reserved for a lucky few. They are not fixed at birth. They can be built, practiced, and embodied. But be careful. If you treat them like shallow tricks, they will collapse in your hands. Women notice forced behavior very quickly. False confidence, rehearsed mystery, borrowed charm, it all reveals itself. So the real goal is not to imitate a seductive image. The real goal is to understand why these traits work, how they affect the mind, and how to grow into them in a way that is genuine. That is where true influence begins. Trait 1. Emotional self-sufficiency. Let's begin with a truth that many men don't want to hear, but every man needs to understand if he truly wants to master psychology tricks, understand female psychology, and learn how to fall in love in a way that actually works in the real world. Attraction does not grow from need, it grows from strength. And the first and most powerful trait, emotional self-sufficiency, is not just one tactic among many. It is the foundation that silently shapes how a woman feels about you before she even realizes it. Because nothing, and that means nothing, pushes a woman away faster than a man who depends on her to feel secure, and nothing draws her in more naturally than a man who is already complete within himself. Yes, that may sound uncomfortable, but discomfort is often where growth begins. And if you truly want to understand psychology tricks at a deeper level, you must face this directly. When a man constantly seeks validation, approval, or reassurance from a woman, he believes he is showing care. He believes he is being attentive. He believes he is doing everything right. But in reality, through the lens of female psychology, he is triggering the exact opposite response. Because her mind, especially her subconscious, does not interpret that behavior as love, it interprets it as instability. This idea was described by Dr. Robert Glover as the nice guy syndrome, where men overextend themselves emotionally, hoping that giving more will make them more desirable. But instead of increasing attraction, it slowly drains it. Because when you text too much, when you overcompliment, when you agree with everything she says just to avoid tension, when you reshape your personality just to fit what you think she wants, you are not creating connection. You are quietly signaling that you do not stand firmly on your own. And here is where most men misunderstand how to fall in love successfully. Love is not built on losing yourself. It is built on maintaining yourself while choosing someone else. A woman's mind is wired, through both evolution and experience, to look for emotional steadiness, for a man who remains grounded even when things are uncertain. And when she senses that your emotional state rises and falls based on her responses, she begins to feel pressure, not comfort. And that pressure slowly replaces attraction. So don't chase reassurance. Don't build your emotional balance on her reactions. Don't wait for her texts to determine your mood. Because the moment she feels that responsibility, something shifts inside her, something subtle but powerful. And this is where psychology tricks and female psychology intersect in a way most men overlook. Attraction thrives in freedom, not obligation. Emotional self-sufficiency, on the other hand, creates a completely different energy, a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced because it is felt, not spoken. It shows up in how you live your life, not just how you interact with her. It looks like a man who has goals that matter to him, not just vague ideas, but clear direction. It looks like a man who has hobbies that energize him, not distractions, but passions. It looks like a man who has friendships that support him, not because he needs constant company, but because he values connection. And most importantly, it looks like a man who enjoys a woman's presence without depending on it, a man who can say, without words, I like you, I choose you, but I am already whole. And that energy is incredibly powerful because it removes pressure and replaces it with curiosity. It makes her wonder about you instead of managing you. And that is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks in attraction. Think about this scenario. You're on a date, and your phone lights up with a message from a friend about an upcoming trip. You smile. Your energy shifts slightly. You share the story with enthusiasm, not to impress her, not to make her jealous, but because it genuinely excites you. And in that moment, something changes in her perception of you. Because she sees that your life extends beyond the table you're sitting at. She realizes she is not your entire world. And instead of feeling less important, she feels more drawn in. Because now she wants to be part of that world, not the center of it. And that is the paradox many men fail to understand when learning how to fall in love. The less you make her responsible for your happiness, the more she wants to contribute to it. Now compare that to a different situation, where a man texts good morning every single day without fail. And at first, it seems sweet, thoughtful, even. But when there is no response within an hour, another message follows. Everything okay? And then another. And another. And slowly, what started as attention begins to feel like monitoring. What started as care begins to feel like dependence. And by the second week, the emotional weight becomes noticeable, not because the man has bad intentions, but because his emotional balance is tied too tightly to her responses. And this is where many men confuse effort with value. They believe more effort equals more attraction. But in reality, when effort comes from need instead of choice, it reduces attraction. So be careful, be intentional, be aware. Because understanding female psychology is not about doing more, it is about doing the right things from the right place. And emotional self-sufficiency is exactly that place. It is the inner stability that allows you to show interest without losing yourself, to express desire without attaching your identity to the outcome, to connect without clinging. And if you truly want to master psychology tricks that actually work, you must start here. Because no amount of charm, no amount of technique, no amount of words will compensate for a lack of inner balance. So don't try to become her source of happiness. Don't make her your emotional anchor. Don't expect her to complete what you have not built within yourself, because that path leads to frustration, confusion, and eventually distance. Instead, build your own life first. Invest in your purpose. Strengthen your mindset. Enjoy your own company. Because when you do, something powerful happens naturally. Your presence becomes lighter, your conversations become more genuine, your energy becomes more attractive. And without trying, without forcing, without chasing, you begin to embody the very thing that draws her in. And that is the quiet truth behind emotional self-sufficiency. It is not about being distant. it is not about being cold. It is not about pretending you don't care. It is about caring from a place of strength, not dependence. It is about choosing her without needing her. It is about standing firmly in your own life while inviting her into it. And when you reach that point, when your happiness is no longer something you seek from her, but something you share with her, you will notice a shift, subtle at first, then undeniable. Because now she is not responding to your words, she is responding to your energy. And that energy tells her something simple, something powerful, something that aligns perfectly with the deepest layers of female psychology. This man is steady. This man is grounded. This man is whole. And that is the kind of man a woman does not just like. It is the kind of man she cannot stop thinking about, the kind of man she chooses, the kind of man she moves toward without being asked. And that is why, if you remember nothing else about psychology tricks, female psychology, and how to fall in love, remember this one lesson above all. Stop chasing validation. Start building yourself. Because the moment you become enough on your own is the moment you become truly attractive. Trait 2. Calibrated unpredictability. Now listen carefully, because this is where most men quietly lose her without even realizing it. This is the trait that creates what psychologists call intrusive thinking, the kind of thinking that slips into her mind when she's driving, when she's working, when she's lying in bed at night. You're not there, but somehow you are. And once you understand this, you stop chasing attention and you start becoming unforgettable. The brain is a prediction machine. It is always trying to guess what comes next. That is how humans stay safe. That is how patterns are formed. But here is the twist most men never learn. When something breaks expectations, not in a chaotic way, but in a subtle, intelligent way, the brain releases dopamine. That small chemical shift creates excitement. It creates curiosity. It creates emotional spikes that the mind wants to revisit again and again. That is the beginning of what feels like obsession. Not forced, not manipulated, but naturally formed because something about you does not fit into a usual pattern. Now look at what most men do. They follow a script. Same compliments, same timing, same predictable good morning texts, same energy every single day. At first, it feels safe, familiar, comfortable, but over time, her brain adapts. And when the brain adapts, it stops paying attention. You are no longer interesting. You are no longer stimulating her mind. You become background noise. And here is the hard truth. Attraction does not survive on comfort alone. It needs contrast. It needs variation. It needs that slight edge of the unknown. Don't misunderstand this. Don't swing to the other extreme. Don't become inconsistent in your values. Don't become unreliable. That is not attractive. That creates confusion, not connection. What you must do is different. You must be consistent in who you are, but flexible in how you show up. That is what a high-value man understands. His character does not change. His standards do not change. But his expression? That stays alive. That stays fresh. That keeps her engaged. Be the man who cannot be fully predicted, but can always be trusted. That is the balance. That is masculine energy at its finest. Calm, grounded, but never dull. Stable, but never repetitive. You must understand, women are not drawn to chaos. They are drawn to emotional stimulation that feels safe. And when you master that balance, you don't just attract women, you stay on their mind. Think about this. One day, you send her a simple message. Not overdone. Not trying too hard. Just enough to show presence. The next day, you don't flood her phone. You give space. You let her wonder. You let her feel your absence. That contrast alone creates more emotional impact than constant attention ever will. Because now, her mind starts asking questions. Why is he different? What is he doing? Why do I keep thinking about him? That is intrusive thinking. That is what you are building. A high-value man does not chase reaction. He creates rhythm. He understands timing. He understands that silence can be just as powerful as words. Don't always respond instantly. Don't always be available. That doesn't mean playing games. That means having a life. That means having purpose. That means your world does not revolve around her, and paradoxically, That is what pulls her deeper into yours. Be intentional with surprises, not grand gestures, not dramatic displays. Small, thoughtful shifts. You remember something she said casually days ago and bring it up at the right moment. You change the tone of your conversation unexpectedly from playful to deep. You lead the interaction in a direction she didn't see coming, but enjoys. That is what keeps her emotionally invested. That is what makes her feel something real. And understand this clearly. Unpredictability is not about confusion. It is about curiosity. Confusion pushes people away. Curiosity pulls them closer. You must learn the difference. A man with masculine energy does not create instability. He creates intrigue. He becomes a question she wants to answer, a story she wants to continue reading. Most men talk too much. They explain too much. They reveal everything too quickly. Don't do that. Mystery is not silence for the sake of silence. Mystery is restraint. It is knowing what to say and what to hold back. It is letting her discover you layer by layer. That process creates emotional investment because people value what they uncover, not what is handed to them all at once. You must also vary your emotional expression. Don't stay in one tone. Don't be the man who is always serious or always joking. Be both. Be light, then grounded. Be calm, then slightly intense. That contrast creates depth. That depth creates presence. And presence is what makes a man unforgettable. A man who can attract women consistently understands one simple truth: attraction lives in emotional movement. If everything about you feels the same, her emotions stay flat. And when emotions stay flat, interest fades. But when you create subtle shifts, when you introduce moments she did not expect, her mind stays engaged. Her emotions stay active. And you stay relevant. That is why calibrated unpredictability works. It is not random. It is not careless. It is intentional variation built on a stable foundation. You are not trying to impress her. You are not trying to perform. You are simply expressing yourself fully without falling into repetitive patterns that kill attraction. Be aware of your habits. If you always text at the same time, change it. If you always respond in the same way, adjust it. If your conversations always follow the same structure, break it. Not dramatically, not awkwardly, smoothly, naturally, like a man who is present in the moment, not trapped in routine. And here is where it becomes powerful. When she cannot fully predict you, her brain keeps trying. It keeps replaying interactions. It keeps analyzing. That is not something you force. That is something you allow by not being overly predictable. You give her just enough clarity to feel safe and just enough mystery to stay engaged. That is the space where attraction grows. So don't be the man she can figure out in one day. Don't be the man who shows everything at once. Be the man who unfolds. Be the man who evolves in her eyes. That is how you attract women without effort. That is how you build real intrigue. That is how a high-value man naturally stands out without trying too hard. Remember this. Safe, but never boring. Consistent, but never repetitive. Present, but never predictable. That is masculine energy. That is calibrated unpredictability. And that is what keeps her thinking about you long after you've left the room. If you understand this, you're already separating yourself from the crowd. Most men stay predictable and get forgotten. You won't. So don't just watch this, apply it. Be the man she can't quite figure out, but can't stop thinking about. And if you're ready to become that man, drop this in the comments right now. I am consistent in who I am, but unpredictable in how I show up. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp, practical insight, and remember, predictability kills attraction. Mystery done right builds it. Trait 3. Confident vulnerability. Trait number 3 is what most men misunderstand, avoid, or completely mishandle, and yet it is one of the most powerful forces of attraction you will ever learn. Confident vulnerability. Not emotional silence. Not emotional chaos. Not pretending nothing ever affects you. And certainly not spilling everything in a desperate attempt to be understood. That is not strength. That is not attractive. What you are building here is something far more precise, far more controlled, Far more rare, a calm, grounded openness that comes from an iron mind, shaped by old Stoic wisdom. The kind of mindset that doesn't collapse under pressure, but also doesn't hide from truth. A man who embodies confident vulnerability doesn't say, "I'm lost, I need you to fix me." He says, with clarity and composure, "I faced difficult seasons. I've been tested, and I came out stronger." That difference is everything. That difference separates emotional dependency from emotional mastery. And women feel it instantly, because attraction is not built on perfection. It is built on depth. It is built on authenticity under control. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That is the foundation. You do not hide your experiences. You do not deny your past. But you also do not let it define your identity. You own it. You lead it. You present it with calm certainty. In today's world, where most people either shut down emotionally or overshare without discipline, a man who can speak honestly without losing his center becomes unforgettable. He stands out. He creates curiosity. He creates safety. Because when a woman sees that you can face your own truth without falling apart, she begins to trust that you can handle life, handle challenges, and yes, handle her emotions too. And trust, understand this clearly, is the gateway to deep attraction. Without trust, there is no lasting connection. Without emotional safety, there is no real desire. So you must train yourself. You must refine this trait. You must learn to express without collapsing. Share, but don't seek validation. Open up, but don't lose control. Speak, but speak from strength. This is where old Stoic wisdom becomes your advantage. Stoicism teaches you not to suppress emotion, but to govern it, to understand it, to direct it. That is what creates an iron mind. And that is what creates magnetism. Because when you say something like, "I went through a time where I doubted myself, but I used that pressure to rebuild," you are not asking for sympathy. You are demonstrating resilience. You are showing growth. You are signaling emotional maturity. And that is rare. That is powerful. That is what makes a woman lean and instead of pull away. As Brené Brown said, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. But here is the part most men miss. It must be confident vulnerability, not uncontrolled exposure. Because when vulnerability is paired with stability, it builds attraction. When it is paired with instability, it creates distance. So you must be intentional. You must be aware. You must operate with discipline. In your conversations, don't rush to impress. Don't rush to reveal everything. Let your story unfold naturally. Let her discover layers of you over time. That slow reveal creates intrigue. It creates depth. It creates emotional investment. And in modern life, where attention spans are short and connections are often shallow, depth becomes your advantage. Depth becomes your edge. Depth makes you stand out in a world full of surface-level interactions. This is why Stoicism win is not just a philosophy, it is a strategy for life. It teaches you how to remain centered while still being human, how to stay grounded while still being open, how to connect without losing yourself. And when you master this, everything changes. Your conversations become more meaningful. Your presence becomes more calming. Your energy becomes more attractive. Because people are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to real strength, quiet strength, controlled strength. And that is exactly what confident vulnerability communicates. It says, "I have faced life. I have been tested. And I am still standing." That message is powerful. That message creates respect. And respect, always remember this, is the foundation of attraction. Not tricks, not games, not manipulation. Respect. So don't hide behind silence. But don't drown in emotion either. Find the balance. Build the discipline. Develop the awareness. That is your path. That is your advantage. And that is how you become the man who doesn't chase, because he naturally attracts. Trait 4. Direction and purpose. Trait number 4. The one most men overlook because it cannot be faked, borrowed, or performed for long. Direction and purpose. A man who is going somewhere in life, not drifting, not waiting, not hoping, but moving with intention. Understand this clearly. This is not about showing off status, not about money, titles, or external validation. That is surface level attraction, and surface level always fades. What truly pulls a woman in, what activates the deeper layers of female psychology, is trajectory. It is the quiet, undeniable sense that your life has a direction, that your days are not random, that your actions are aligned with something bigger than momentary comfort. A man with purpose does not need to announce it. It shows in how he walks, how he speaks, how he makes decisions. He is not rushing, yet he is never stagnant. He is calm, but not passive. That is where the real psychology tricks begin to work, because they are not tricks at all. They are signals of a grounded identity. You must understand this. When a man has direction, he naturally becomes less available. Not because he is playing games, not because he is trying to manipulate, but because his time is already invested in something meaningful. His schedule is not empty. His energy is not scattered. And this is exactly where female psychology responds the strongest. Scarcity, when it is real, creates value. And value creates curiosity. Curiosity creates emotional engagement. That is how to fall in love begins, not with grand gestures, but with subtle intrigue rooted in respect. Most men make the mistake of overavailability. They respond instantly. They rearrange their lives too quickly. They make her the center before she has earned that place. Don't do that. Be present, but don't be excessive. Be attentive, but don't abandon your path. That is the balance. That is the discipline. Because when your attention is rare, it becomes powerful. When you choose to give it, it carries weight. And when she feels that weight, she doesn't take it lightly. She leans in. She invests. She begins to think about you when you are not there. This is how to fall in love unfolds in the real world, not through constant contact, but through meaningful presence. A man with purpose creates what can only be described as emotional gravity. He pulls people toward him without force, without pressure, without chasing. Why? Because his life already has direction. And direction is attractive. Direction signals stability. Direction signals leadership. Direction signals that he is not lost. And in a world where so many people are uncertain, confused, and reactive, clarity becomes magnetic. You must build that clarity, not for her, for yourself. Because here is the truth most people don't want to hear. When you live without purpose, you become dependent on attention. You start needing validation. You start seeking approval. And that shifts the dynamic. That removes the mystery. That weakens attraction. But when you have a mission, something changes internally. You stop chasing reactions. You stop overanalyzing messages. You stop needing constant reassurance. And that internal shift is exactly what female psychology picks up on instantly. Women are highly intuitive when it comes to emotional energy. They can sense when a man is centered and when he is seeking. They can feel when a man is grounded and when he is trying too hard. So don't try harder. Become clearer. Build a life that excites you. Create goals that demand your focus. Wake up with intention. Move with purpose. That is the foundation. That is where all powerful psychology tricks actually begin, not in what you say, but in how you live. Because when your life has direction, your words carry more weight. Your silence carries more meaning. Your absence creates more curiosity. And your presence becomes something she looks forward to, not something she expects. That distinction changes everything. Expectation breeds comfort. Curiosity fuels attraction. And if you want to understand how to fall in love from a psychological perspective, you must understand this tension between presence and absence, between availability and mystery. A man with purpose naturally creates that tension without even trying. He doesn't need to pull away strategically. His life already pulls him forward. He doesn't need to create distance artificially. His mission already requires focus. And because of that, every moment he chooses to share becomes intentional. That intention is felt. That intention is remembered. That intention is what separates a man who is simply liked from a man who is deeply desired. So be that man. Not by pretending, not by copying behaviors, but by building something real. Set standards for your time. Protect your energy. Invest in growth. Stay committed to your path even when it's difficult. even when it's lonely, even when it would be easier to seek distraction. Because purpose is not built in comfort, it is built in discipline. And discipline creates confidence, not loud confidence, not performative confidence, but quiet, steady confidence that does not need validation. That is what anchors attraction. That is what makes her feel safe to invest emotionally. Because she sees that you are not easily shaken. You are not easily distracted. You are not easily consumed by the moment. You are grounded in something deeper. And when she feels that, she begins to trust. She begins to open. She begins to connect. This is where female psychology moves from curiosity to attachment. And it all starts with direction. So don't focus on impressing her. Focus on building yourself. Don't chase attention. Build a life that attracts it naturally. Don't ask for interest. Create an environment where interest grows on its own. That is the difference between effort and alignment. Effort can be exhausting. Alignment is effortless. And a man with purpose lives in alignment. He knows where he is going. He knows what matters. He knows what to ignore. That clarity becomes his strength. That strength becomes his presence. And that presence becomes his advantage in every interaction. So if you are serious about mastering these psychology tricks, if you truly want to understand female psychology and how to fall in love in a way that creates lasting connection, then start here. Build direction. Live with purpose. Protect your time. And let your life speak louder than your words. Because in the end, attraction is not something you force. It is something you embody. Trait 5. Non-Reactive Composure. This is where most men lose the game before it even begins. They react too fast, too emotional, too predictable. A message takes too long? They feel anxious. A tone changes? They assume something is wrong. Pressure rises, and they break their frame. Don't do that. Don't hand over control of your emotional state to external situations. Be still. Be grounded. Be in command of yourself. That is what separates a man who chases from a man who attracts. A high-value man does not rush to react. He observes, he processes, he chooses. That is masculine discipline. That is real masculine energy. And women feel it instantly, even if they cannot explain it. Most people operate like emotional mirrors. They reflect whatever is thrown at them. Tension creates tension. Jealousy creates jealousy. Drama creates more drama. But you must be different. You must become the calm center in the middle of chaos. When she tests you, stay composed. When emotions rise, slow down instead of speeding up. When others lose control, you become even more controlled. That contrast is magnetic. That contrast is what allows you to attract women without chasing them. Because calmness signals something deeper. It signals that your identity is not fragile. It signals that your value is not dependent on approval. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Read that again. Let it sink in. Your power is internal, always internal. The moment you let outside events dictate your emotions, you give away your authority. And people can feel that, especially women. They're highly attuned to emotional stability. Not what you say, not what you show on the surface, but what you are underneath. If your mood shifts with every little change, you communicate uncertainty. But if you remain steady, calm, and centered, you communicate strength without saying a word. This does not mean you become cold or distant. No, that's a mistake many men make. They confuse composure with detachment. Don't shut down. Don't disappear emotionally. Instead, stay present, but in control. Feel everything, but don't let everything control you. That is the balance. That is emotional mastery. When she becomes emotional, you don't escalate, you stabilize. When she pulls back, you don't panic, you give space. When tension appears, you don't react, you lead the emotional direction. That is how a high-value man moves. Quiet, certain, unshaken. Understand this clearly. Emotional reactions are predictable. Predictability creates boredom. But composure? Composure creates intrigue. Because she cannot easily read you. She cannot easily influence you. And that creates a subtle tension, one that keeps her mind engaged. She starts wondering, She starts observing you more closely. She becomes more invested, not because you tried to impress her, but because your emotional stability is something she doesn't encounter often. And what is rare is always attractive. Think about it in modern life. Everyone is overstimulated. Social media, messages, instant reactions, instant validation. People are constantly reacting without thinking. So when you step into that world as a man who is calm, measured, and intentional, you stand out immediately. You don't argue unnecessarily. You don't over-explain yourself. You don't seek constant reassurance. You move with quiet certainty. That is powerful. That is what people respect. And more importantly, that is what makes it easy to attract women naturally, without force. Here is the truth most men avoid. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot lead a relationship. And if you cannot lead yourself, no one will fully trust your direction. So build the skill daily. When something triggers you, pause. When you feel the urge to react, breathe. When emotions rise, slow down. That is training. That is discipline. Over time, this becomes your default state. And once it does, your presence alone starts to communicate value. A high-value man is not loud. He is not reactive. He is not easily shaken. He is steady. He is grounded. He is composed. That is real masculine energy. Not force, not control, but calm authority over self. And when a woman feels that she cannot disturb your inner peace, something shifts inside her. She leans in. She invests more. She becomes curious about the man who cannot be moved so easily. So remember this. Don't react impulsively. Don't give away your emotional power. Be calm when others are chaotic. Be steady when others are uncertain. Be the man who chooses his response, not the man who is controlled by his reaction. That is how you build presence. That is how you build attraction. And that is how you become the kind of man who naturally, effortlessly begins to attract women, not by chasing, but by simply being unshakably himself. Trait 6. Selective attention and standards. Trait 6 is where most men quietly lose their power without even realizing it, because they give away the one thing that can never be replaced, attention, and they give it away too easily, too quickly, and too cheaply. Understand this clearly. Attention is currency, and in modern life, where everyone is fighting for validation through screens, messages, and constant noise, the man who controls his attention controls his value. So don't rush to reply. Don't be constantly available. Don't make yourself predictable in your accessibility. Because the moment you do, you communicate something without words. You say that your time is open, your focus is cheap, and your life is waiting for someone else to give it meaning. And that is exactly what you must never do. Instead, be deliberate, be selective, be calm. Because a man who lives by old Stoic wisdom understands that not everything deserves his energy. Not every message deserves an instant response. Not every person deserves access to his inner world. And this is not about playing games. It is about living with standards. It is about choosing where your life flows. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. As Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. And that means you don't announce your standards. You don't justify your distance. You simply live it. You demonstrate it through action, through silence, through presence, and through absence. Because absence, when used with intention, creates curiosity. It creates respect. It creates space for someone to feel your value. In today's world, where most men chase, overextend, and overgive, the man who holds back just enough stands out immediately, not because he is distant, but because he is centered, he is grounded, he is guided by an iron mind. And that iron mind does not bend for every notification, every request, every impulse. You must train yourself to pause, to choose, to decide. Because a high-value man, whether he realizes it or not, filters his attention the same way he filters his time. And that is why Stoicism win is not just an idea. It is a discipline. It is a way of living where you refuse to be controlled by external demands, where you refuse to let other people dictate your focus, your mood, or your availability. And here is the truth most men overlook. When you give your attention freely, it is rarely appreciated. But when your attention is earned, it becomes meaningful. It becomes something she values, something she works toward, something she respects deeply. This is not manipulation. This is human nature, because people value what requires effort. And when you create that natural boundary, when you show that your time is not open to everyone, you create a silent challenge. And that challenge draws the right woman closer, not because you chase her, but because she feels that earning your attention is worth it. Remember what Marcus Aurelius taught. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that strength is exactly what you need here. Because selective attention is not about ignoring people. It is about mastering yourself, mastering your impulses, mastering your need for validation, and replacing it with calm certainty, with purpose, with direction. In modern dating, where messages are constant and expectations are immediate, the man who responds on his own time, who prioritizes his mission, who invests in his growth, who protects his focus, becomes rare. And rarity creates attraction. Rarity creates respect. Rarity creates desire. You must build a life where your attention is already occupied with your goals, your discipline, your purpose, so that when you give attention to a woman, it feels intentional, it feels chosen, it feels earned. And that is what makes it powerful. Do not misunderstand us. You are not withdrawing to create distance. You are living fully so that your presence has weight, so that your attention has meaning, so that when you show up, it matters. This is the essence of old Stoic wisdom. This is the foundation of an iron mind. This is how Stoicism becomes real in your daily life, not through words, not through theories, but through quiet, consistent behavior that signals strength, self-respect, and control. And if you take one lesson from this, let it be this. Stop giving your attention where it is merely accepted. Start giving it where it is earned. Because the moment you make that shift, everything changes. Your presence becomes magnetic. Your time becomes valuable. And your life becomes your own again. And that is the kind of man people notice, respect, and are naturally drawn toward without you ever having to chase. All right, let's bring this home. Listen, you don't need to complicate this. You don't need tricks, games, or a fake personality. What you need is clarity, direction, control over yourself. Because at the end of the day, emotional self-sufficiency, unpredictability, confident vulnerability, and purpose, these aren't just dating tools. They are who you become. They shape how you walk, how you speak, how you make decisions when no one is watching. And here's the part you should remember. You're not building a new man from scratch. You're revealing the man that's already there, just buried under habits and hesitation. So don't rush. Don't overwhelm yourself. Pick one trait. Just one. Commit to it for the next 30 days. Stay consistent. Stay aware. Because when one core part of you improves, everything else starts aligning: your mindset, your energy, your presence. It all follows. And when that shift happens, you'll notice something powerful. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. And somehow, without effort, people start feeling your presence differently. Take that seriously. All right, my friend, stay sharp, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next video.